Ever feel like something's watching you? Do you enjoy the sounds that make your skin crawl? Welcome, brave souls, to Haunted Echoes. Are you ready? Grab your headphones, dim the lights, and let's journey into the world of the paranormal, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying. Once a quaint little town called Sable Ridge was home to a shop so peculiar it didn't have a name, just a simple wooden sign that displayed a doll's face. Some people referred to it as the doll maker's shop, although nobody knew the actual name of the doll maker. The elderly gentleman behind the counter was always dressed in a vintage suit with white gloves that were eerily spotless. The dolls in his shop were extraordinary, lifelike, beautiful, and dressed in intricate costumes. Their eyes seemed to possess a depth of emotion that pulled people in. One October evening, a teenage girl named Emily wandered into the shop, drawn by an inexplicable curiosity. The moment she stepped in, she felt a sudden drop in temperature, as if she had walked into a different realm. The shop was dimly lit, casting haunting shadows on the rows of glass cabinets that contained the dolls. Their faces seemed to gaze at her, tracking her every move. Emily was fascinated and creeped out all at once. "Do you make all these dolls yourself?" she asked the doll maker. "Yes, my dear. Each one is unique, crafted with love, and filled with a fragment of a soul," he replied. "A soul?" Emily chuckled nervously. "Just a figure of speech," the doll maker responded with a glint in his eye. "Would you like to purchase one? They make for excellent companions." Emily hesitated. She was captivated by one doll in particular, a female with raven black hair and green eyes, dressed in a vintage gown that reminded her of the 1800s. It was almost as if the doll was calling out to her. Unable to resist, she purchased the doll, which the doll maker carefully boxed up for her. Upon reaching home, Emily placed the doll on her bedside table. She couldn't shake the feeling that the doll's eyes were watching her. That night, she had the most vivid, unsettling dream. She was in an old abandoned mansion running from something or someone she couldn't see. Just when she was about to scream, she woke up. The first thing she saw was the doll, its eyes seemingly glowing in the dark. The next day, Emily decided to research the history of the doll. To her surprise, she found an old newspaper article online that sent chills down her spine. The article described a woman named Eliza who had lived in Sable Ridge in the 1800s, who had been accused of witchcraft and mysteriously disappeared before her trial. The description matched the doll perfectly: raven black hair and green eyes. Terrified, Emily decided to return the doll. However, upon arriving at the location of the shop, she found it had vanished, as if it had never existed. Confused and scared, she went home, intending to get rid of the doll. But as she reached for it, she felt a sharp pain in her hand, as if pricked by a needle. The doll's eyes seemed to flicker almost in delight. That night, Emily's dreams escalated. This time, she found herself in a candlelit room where Eliza stood, chanting an incantation. When their eyes met, Eliza mouthed, "You are mine." Emily woke up in a cold sweat, heart pounding. The room was freezing, and the doll was no longer on the bedside table. Panic rising, she searched her room and found the doll sitting on a chair facing her bed. Unable to bear it any longer, Emily took the doll to her backyard, doused it with gasoline, and set it on fire. The flames roared high, and she heard a faint scream that didn't seem to come from her surroundings but from somewhere far away, yet within her own head. Feeling relieved, she went back to her room, but she froze at the doorway. There, on her bedside table, was the doll, unscathed, its eyes gleaming red this time, and its mouth twisted into a malevolent grin. At that moment, Emily realized the soul inside the doll was never meant to be a companion. It was a vessel for something darker, waiting for the right moment to break free. From that night on, nobody saw Emily again. Her parents found her room empty, except for an eerily lifelike doll with blonde hair and blue eyes, dressed in modern clothing, sitting on her bedside table. The doll was later donated to a shop without a name, only a wooden sign displaying a doll's face. reappearing years later in another quaint little town. And so the cycle continues, as the shop waits for its next curious visitor. I hope you liked tonight's creepy stories. If you enjoyed this video or if you want more, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more weekly horror stories that'll send chills down your spine. Good night, if you dare.